Welcome back, and thank you for joining me again. And if this is your first time here, I'm glad you found your way to this space where we explore timeless truths through a modern lens. Every story we revisit from the Bible isn't just history. It's a living message, one that still speaks to us today in powerful, personal ways. In today's episode, we're stepping into a moment of quiet hospitality that leads into a divine encounter. It begins under the shade of ancient trees, with a man named Abraham offering simple kindness to 3 unexpected visitors. But what unfolds next is no ordinary conversation. There's a promise made, a challenge to faith, and a bold conversation between Abraham and God that will leave you thinking about the power of prayer, justice, and trust. Have you ever felt like the odds were too stacked against you to believe in a miracle? Or have you ever wondered if your voice, your prayers, could actually make a difference in a world that feels so loud and broken? Stay with me, because this chapter may just reshape how you see your own relationship with God. A modern-day reading of Genesis 18, the 3 visitors. One hot afternoon, Abraham was resting at the entrance of his tent near the trees of Mamre. As he looked up, he noticed 3 men standing nearby. Right away, he got up and ran to greet them, bowing respectfully. "Please," Abraham said, "if I found favor in your eyes, don't just pass by. Let me get you some water so you can wash your feet and rest under this tree. I'll also bring you something to eat so you can refresh yourselves before you continue your journey." The visitors agreed, saying, "All right, go ahead." Abraham hurried into the tent and said to Sarah, "Quick, take the best flour we have and bake some fresh bread." Then he ran to his herd, picked a choice young calf, and had a servant prepare it. He brought out the bread, the cooked meat, some curds, and milk, and served it all to the 3 men under the tree. He stood nearby while they ate. While they were eating, the men asked, "Where's your wife, Sarah?" "She's in the tent," Abraham replied. Then one of them said, "This time next year I'll return, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah was listening from the entrance of the tent. Behind them, both she and Abraham were already very old, and Sarah was long past the age of having children. She laughed to herself and thought, "Really? At my age? And with Abraham also being old?" But the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh? Why did she say, 'Will I really have a child now that I'm old?' Is anything too difficult for the Lord? I'll come back next year, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah, afraid, denied it. "I didn't laugh." But God said, "Yes, you did laugh." Abraham pleads for Sodom. After the meal, the visitors got up and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham walked with them for part of the way. Then the Lord said, "Should I hide what I'm about to do from Abraham? He will become a powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. I've chosen him to teach his family and future generations to do what's right and just. That's how I'll fulfill my promises to him." Then the Lord said, "There's been a loud outcry about how wicked the people of Sodom and Gomorrah are. I'm going down there myself to see if things are as bad as I've heard. If not, I'll know." The 2 visitors went ahead toward Sodom, but Abraham stayed with the Lord. Then Abraham stepped forward and asked, "Are you really going to destroy the good people along with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you still wipe it out? That wouldn't be right. Treating the righteous and the wicked the same. Won't the judge of all the earth do what's right?" God replied, "If I find 50 righteous people in Sodom, I'll spare the whole city for their sake." Then Abraham said, "I'm just dust and ashes, but what if there are only 45 righteous people?" God said, "I won't destroy it if I find 45. Abraham continued, "What if only 40 are found?" God answered, "I won't destroy for the sake of 40. Abraham said, "Please don't be angry, Lord, but what if there are only 30? God said, "I won't destroy it if I find 30. Abraham said, "What if there are just 20? God replied, "For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it." Then Abraham said one last time, "Please, Lord, Just once more, what if there are only 10? God answered, if there are 10 righteous people, I will not destroy the city. After the conversation ended, the Lord left, and Abraham went back home. This is my interpretation of the text. Genesis 18 highlights two powerful themes: divine promise and intercession. First, we see the faithfulness of God reaffirmed in his promise to Abraham and Sarah, that even in their old age, he would bless them with a child. Sarah's laughter is human, skeptical and doubtful, but God gently reminds her and us that nothing is too hard for him. It's a moment that illustrates both the limits of human understanding and the boundless possibilities of divine purpose. The second part of the chapter shifts to a more serious tone, where God reveals to Abraham that he's going to investigate the sin in Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham doesn't shy away from the conversation. Instead, he steps in the role of an advocate, pleading with God to spare the righteous, even if they are few. This shows Abraham's deep compassion and his relationship with God, not just as a follower, but as someone willing to speak up and appeal to God's justice. What's remarkable here is a conversation between Abraham and God. It's honest, respectful, and persistent. Abraham keeps asking, and God keeps responding. It reminds us that prayer isn't just about asking for things. It's about communion, trust, and standing in the gap for others. God doesn't silence Abraham or dismiss his concern. He listens. That tells us something powerful about God's patience and his desire for us to engage with him. Lastly, this chapter reminds us that righteousness matters. God was willing to spare entire cities for the sake of just a few good people. That shows the weight and influence a small number of faithful people can carry. It's a reminder that our actions, integrity, and faith can make a real difference in the world around us. Here's a life example for our modern times. Imagine two elderly people who've long given up on the idea of having children. Then, out of nowhere, a doctor tells them it's still possible. And not only that, but it's going to happen. Their first instinct might be to laugh, just like Sarah did. But miracles don't follow our timelines. They follow God's purpose. That situation could apply to someone hoping for healing, for reconciliation in a broken relationship, or for a second chance in life. What we think is impossible, God still has power to make happen. Or think about a community going through a crisis, violence, corruption, or division. Most people might write it off. But someone like Abraham steps in. Maybe it's a teacher, a pastor, a neighbor, or a young person. Someone who says, what if we try? What if there's something still worth saving? Abraham's story reminds us that one person speaking up, praying, or stepping in can shift the outcome, even if just a handful of people are doing what's right. This is a call to action for all of us. In today's world, it's easy to doubt when things don't make sense or when dreams feel too far gone. But just like Abraham and Sarah, we're called to trust in a God who sees the big picture. If you've been waiting, praying, or holding on to a promise, don't let your faith fade. Keep showing up, keep believing, and remember, nothing is too hard for God. And when you see injustice, don't turn away. Speak up, pray, step in. Abraham didn't ignore what was coming to Sodom. He boldly interceded. You may not be able to fix everything, but your voice, your faith, and your actions still matter. Be a person who stands in the gap, whether it's for your family, your community, or even someone you don't know. Let today's lesson remind you to live with faith and boldness. Take it with you into your week. And if this story speaks to you, don't forget to like this message, subscribe for more faith-centered inspiration, comment your thoughts, and share this with someone who could use these words today. Let's keep walking in faith together. As we close out today's episode, I want you to carry this truth with you. Nothing is too hard for God. Whether you're holding on to a promise that feels delayed or standing in a gap for someone else, remember Abraham and Sarah. Their story reminds us that God's timing often surprises us, but his word never fails. And like Abraham, don't be afraid to speak up. Your prayers, your compassion, and your willingness to stand up for what's right, they matter in a world full of noise and chaos. Your quiet faith can be the beginning of change, just like it was for Abraham. Let today's lesson find its way into your everyday life. Trust deeper. Pray boldly. Walk with confidence in the promises God has placed over you. If this message resonated with you, please like the video, leave a comment with your reflections or what stood out to you most, and subscribe so you never miss these faith-centered episodes. Come back next time as we continue this journey through the stories that shaped history and still speak to the heart today.